Anybody want to take a crack at telling everyone who is Ernest Shackleton? By the way, normally I kind of walk around, but I feel like I'm caged. If I go this way, you can't see. If I go this way, we're way too close. But I'll try. Shackleton, who is he?
He led a group of explorers to try to find the South Pole.
Group of explorers to try to find the South Pole.
To get to the South Pole.
Well, you're in the ballpark. Anyone want to amplify or crystallize?
Yeah, he wanted to be the first one to cross the continent of Antarctica.
By foot.
But yeah. So he took a group down there, and with 1914, early 1900s.
1914, Jared, you're good. But by the way, Jared's red endurance. I think you told me twice, right? Let me kind of set the stage on who Ernest Shackleton is. And I'll take a step back. What's interesting about the next hour and so you'll spend with me, this is not your typical PowerPoint presentation. The reason many of my clients love this, in fact, this is my highest rated workshop, and it has to do with the multimedia format. People love, sitting back watching movies, especially after lunch. So what we've done with this particular case study, we've taken a couple of books, The Endurance, and Shackleton's Way. Shackleton's Way is a book that just extracts the leadership lessons from Ernest Shackleton. We've also taken The Endurance, which is a PBS special that includes actual footage, but to give it some extra bells and whistles, I've included some clips from a miniseries starring Kenneth Branagh called Shackleton. Now I share this with you because I've now learned at the following of this talk, people will come up and say, how do I get that video? How do I continue to read and research? And I will put this up to close today's talk so you can kind of write it down. You can buy all of these resources on Amazon. A brief overview. 1914, Shackleton hires 27 men. Now, I've often said this is as much of a hiring story as it is a story of survival. To cross the Antarctic continent by foot, he was going to have a sister boat come one side of the Antarctic continent, while the Endurance, the name of his vessel, was going to go down on the other side and then cross. Shortly after reaching Antarctica, the Endurance got trapped in ice. It floats aimlessly within the pack of ice for 10 months until the ice ultimately melted, because now they're going towards the summer season. It's melting their platform, and they have to make a decision. And the decision they make to take what basically are these small rowboats and cross the sea to try to find land. Now, the land that they located was an island called Elephant Island. Elephant Island had no life other than seals and penguins, so they knew they couldn't stay on Elephant Island. So they had to have a smaller party leave Elephant Island to set sail on St. George's Island. St. George's Island was 850 miles away through the Weddell Sea, considered the most treacherous body of water throughout the planet. So now you've got a smaller party on a boat that's basically a rowboat, traveling 850 miles, while the remaining men were left behind on Elephant Island. So they arrive on St. George's Island. That's good news. They did arrive. They made it. They had no GPS. They did make it, but they arrived on the wrong side of the island. So now they have to climb glacial mountains to reach a whaling station. Now Nova has tried to replicate each leg of the journey using today's technology and equipment with extreme difficulty. So, there's a reason why the Shackleton story has kind of stood the test of time as the greatest survival story of all time. Not a single life was lost. Now you might sit there and say, well, boy, he's telling us the ending. It's real important to kind of know that as we go through this particular journey. A couple of points. He is noted as a fabulous leader, Ernest Shackleton. In fact, there are leadership schools today still based on the leadership lessons of Shackleton. So what I have done is taken the story of Shackleton and I've kind of put it within my brand, which is how do you engage your employees to drive business results? In this case, how can he engage 27 men to accomplish a goal? And the first step is it's got to be about high performance. Second step, it has to start at the top. Third step, you have to communicate. It was interesting listening to Chuck talking about becoming an ESOP and not having the communication plan in place to articulate that message to your employees. People who manage people, your greatest driver of engagement, first line leaders. How to individualize engagement, because you're different than you are, you're different than him, and if you try to treat everyone the same, you'll lose. So how does Shackleton individualize his engagement of 27 men? How can he create a culture that's motivational? Not motivate, that's different. How can he create a culture that's motivational for the 27 crew? How to provide feedback, how to reinforce and reward right behaviors, and as important, consequences for the wrong behaviors. So in each one of these clips, we will debrief and I will go back to some of these 10 steps of engagement. Are we tracking our progress? How are we doing? Are you giving hope? Are you establishing goals? You'll see how Shackleton did that. And number 10, which in so many ways should be number 1, how to hire the right people. And the reason it's number 10 in most of our organizations, we're not just starting. We're already in our organizations, right? So if you could plan an organization, a key step of engagement, are you hiring the right people? Now let's use that as background to this talk. Hire the right people.
The 1914 Imperial Trans-Antarctic Expedition, under the leadership of polar explorer Sir Ernest Shackleton, would have been the last great journey in the heroic age of discovery. It was a daring scheme. A small party was to cross the Antarctic continent for the first time. According to legend, Shackleton announced the expedition in a now famous advertisement.
Men wanted for hazardous journey, small wages, bitter cold, long months of complete darkness, constant danger, safe return doubtful, honor and recognition in case of success. Ernest Shackleton. My grandfather, Colonel Ord Lees, was always looking for an opportunity to do something exceptional, and such an ad would have been catnip to my grandfather. He couldn't resist it.
Chippy McNish saw an advertisement in the paper looking for men to go to Antarctica, and he said he might not return. So he went and seen about it and got it.
5,000 men, from sailors to Cambridge-educated scientists, responded. Like Ernest Shackleton himself, they were drawn by hopes of adventure and glory. I had a dream.
I love this ad. Help wanted. Hazardous journey, small wages, bitter cold, long months of complete darkness, constant danger, safe return doubtful, honor and recognition in case of success. I gave this talk up in Anchorage, and the office manager said, well, that's what it's like here. You got 5,000 applicants. Why? Think of that. Why? Why did 5,000 people apply to that ad?
Was there a recession?
Well, there was a great recession, 2014. But the money didn't look all that great. Curiosity, perhaps. The challenge. Meaning. Purpose. Knowing your employer value proposition is so key. Chuck mentioned that a few times in his Parsons talk. Your employer value proposition, this is who we are. if you can identify and crystallize who you are far more apt to find the types of people that will succeed in your journey. See, if he hired me, the story wouldn't have been as successful because I would have died. Because I probably wouldn't have had that survival instinct. The 27 people he hired were all kind of outdoorsy enthusiasts. They also knew Shackleton, the importance of your brand. So he got 5,000 candidates to apply. If I ran an ad, I wouldn't have, because they wouldn't have known who I was. So how can you position your brand in a way that can attract people to work for your firm? Shackleton in 1914 actually knew this. He was a big branding guy. On the journey, he actually brought a photographer. The reason this journey is so archived, because he was archiving it in the midst of the journey. He understood his employment brand. See, Shackleton had set sail with Scott Bird previously, so he was a brand within himself. So when he put that ad up there, it was like applying for a job at Google. You know, trust me, Google gets more resumes right now than say Yahoo. I mean, they are a brand. So how do you position yourself as a brand? Now, we're going to go into kind of the Hollywood clip, and there are two reinforcing areas that I want to touch on. One is the link to high performance. I am a fan of high performance. In fact, I think A players want to work with A players. Most of the people that work in our industry were high achievers in school, but yet we often allow mediocrity to exist. In my opinion, most people don't want to be mediocre. We do a lousy job of establishing what is the definition of high performance. Shackleton establishes this very early on. In fact, he establishes it on day one. And then you'll see this reinforce and reward right behaviors. Unless you are reinforcing rewarding behaviors and consequences for nonconformance, you're not really going to have any values. Or you're not really going to have reward and recognition systems that are meaningful. So let me set the stage on this clip. It's a very powerful clip. Shackleton stayed behind in England to raise funding. So his ship set sail without him. And he came down on a secondary ship and met them off the coast of South America. So he's now arriving on his ship, meeting the men together for the very first time. But the ship got a little sloppy en route. And you'll see him holding people accountable, establishing expectations, and all under the umbrella of, hey, this is a culture of high performance.
Captain, is everybody present?
No, sir. We were missing able seaman Irving and Barr.
Where are they?
Well, sir, we have been looking for them since Wednesday. There may have been some confusion about leave.
Dismiss them.
Well, I think it's quite a genuine...
Pay them off, Captain. Our lives, all our lives depend on each other. There can be no one on this ship who does not understand that. What was that?
Ship's cat, sir, Mrs. Chippy.
Mrs. who?
Mrs. Chippy, sir. Is mine. McNish, ship's carpenter.
Well, Mr. Chippy, keep Mrs. Chippy out of the way when the dogs come on board. Anybody else not present?
Well, sir, the cook is below, but I'm afraid he's unable...
Frank, get him out of here. I want him off this ship. Find him a room somewhere. We'll set his kit on later.
Right, Doctor. Come on, let's go, let's go.
That's it.
Get on.
There we go now. So, who wants to make breakfast?
Well, I think I can manage to brew up some coffee.
And you are?
Frank Hurley. I arrived last night.
Mr. Hurley, a prince among men, so they tell me. Ernest Shackleton, 2 sugars and no milk. I'll give you a hand, Your Highness. Skipper, I don't intend to dwell on the events of the voyage here.
Well, sir, we had great...
I don't need an explanation. Nor do I wish there to be any confusion about how the ship will be run from now on. I propose that for the duration of the voyage to Vassal Bay, I will assume the post of captain, and you will be the sailing master. I will continue to address you as skipper, that way your authority is less likely to be undermined. You will resume the captaincy only when I have gone ashore. Is that understood?
Yes, sir.
Yes!
Room service?
Ah, Mr. Hurley, thank you. It smells delicious.
What did you notice about Shackleton in that clip? What did you like? And maybe what didn't you like?
Well, he was certainly very direct, left no doubt in anybody's mind what was expected. He had set up some very clear expectations and then got rid of the people that weren't meeting his standard.
I ran into someone this morning who I had done some work with a couple of years ago on some strategic planning. And he came up to me and he said, you know, Bob, some of those 3 disruptive people during the session. I said, yeah. He said, remember you kind of hinted at we can never really move forward as long as they're here? I said, I do remember. Finally got rid of them. And I said, what took you so long? He said, well, you're always reluctant to hold people accountable. Why? In this industry, because they have $1 million in backlog, or you worry about, client erosion. But my experience, when you take action when it should be taken, the gain organizationally offsets whatever short-term loss. What else did you notice about Shackleton? Because he actually showed some empathy. Actually, 2 specific examples being the empathetic leader, in spite of being rather, authoritative.
He basically said thank you. The guy who he had made.
Thank you. He was polite. Did you notice how he shifted in style? Mm-hmm. Leadership style, sort of like golf clubs. Knowing what you're dealing with, the situation you're in, and grab the club that makes the most sense. How about the cat? What did you notice about the whole cat thing?
He allowed the cat to stay.
Pick your battles. Pick your He didn't want the cat there, but pick your battles. It's not that big of a deal. By the way, don't fall in love with the cat. I'll tease that right now. Don't fall in love with Mrs. Chippy. Other?
Everybody survived.
I'm not going there. Other points. Pretty cool. Chuck, good catch. He let the skipper keep his title. But even the skipper he held accountable. It was under your watch this happened, and I'm holding you accountable. Now, a couple of points. Frank Hurley's the photographer. We all have Frank Hurleys who work with us. Frank Hurley is a prima donna. He's actually a world-renowned photographer. Do you have any world-renowned people who work with you? They tend to be kind of high maintenance. John talked about this morning, leaders that are really different. Well, sometimes really different comes with it a different skill set to try to manage. Frank Hurley was that person. Frank Hurley was a famous, well-known photographer. He and Shackleton couldn't stand each other, as you'll see. But you'll also see a level of respect that occurs between the 2 of them. Other observations about that clip?
Well, in that clip, there was no doubt who was in charge, but it wasn't about him. It was about the mission.
It was about the mission. By the way, I don't recommend you do this if someone has a project overrun. Think of what the goal here is, right? And because he had been on an earlier journey, the wisdom of experience, he knows that people die. On his former voyages, people died. And he said, that's got to be first and foremost. Maybe in our industry, it's like health and safety, right? We can't have a safety violation. Someone falls off a crane, there's no second chance. So you could tell he knows the seriousness of this mission, and if he allows a level of mediocrity to exist, it'll cost people their lives.
I was going to comment that he chose to do it at the very beginning, and your impact at the very beginning of the mission.
Day one.
Much different.
Yeah. For those who are sitting there saying, why is he showcasing this jackass? I mean, he seems like an authoritative, gorilla. Like, why him? You will see the softening of Shackleton. And by the way, take a step back. The reason this story has been archived, you had the photographer, but Shackleton and all of his men kept logs every single day. So this story is based on his logs as well as the logs of his men. And early on, some of the men who didn't like him, by the end, they loved him. And if you want to read a similar book, read a great book on Lincoln called Team Arrivals, where Lincoln brings all of the people that he ran against to be president who hated Abe Lincoln, thought he was a country bumpkin. When he won, he brought all of them within his inner circle. They hated him. And then when you watch what happens in the letters that were written about Lincoln, and you see this forging of respect and bond, same thing with Shackleton. So early on, tough. It is easier to lighten up as a leader than to come in soft and try to become tough. And he knew that. Create a motivational culture. Now, I am one who believes it is not our job as leaders to motivate. You can't motivate someone long-term. Can't do it. You have to create a culture in which employees can be self-motivated. So part of that motivational culture is, can you inject some fun in the culture? And it's funny, having worked with engineering firms for 30 years, lighten up. It's okay to have some fun. I work with all industries these days, and it's amazing how other companies seem to be much more light. Where even this morning when John got everyone up there, I was watching the crowd. No one really wanted to get up. And once you did, everyone was fine. But how do you inject fun? Fun releases endorphins. Endorphins releases creativity. So Shackleton in 1914 understood this. Two components of this clips. Notice what happens in the first component. I call this stop the boat. That is a hint. Stop the boat. Note why I highlight that. And you can see from the visual, which is an actual visual, note the fun component and why he inserted fun.
Slow down, skipper, in case we hit a growler. And steer away from the pack. I don't want to enter it here.
Hard aport. Hard aport.
Hard aport, bosun.
Hard aport!
Chippy!
Yes, boss.
It's getting a little fresh up here. Can you do something about it?
I can make a windbreak, sir.
Thanks, and I think it may be helpful to have somewhere visually signaling the helmsman now we're at the ice.
Aye, aye, sir.
Thank you. As long as you never actually give him the solution.
What's this growler we're all so worried about?
Underwater ice. Can't see it till you hit it.
Ah, charming.
Remarkable, isn't it? Like looking at the desert for the first time.
The pack is more or less where we expected, or at least where Jakobsen said it would be. So we'll take a southeasterly course, skirting around it as long as we can, but it is pretty loose, and at some point we will have to start to push through if we're to reach Varsel Bay before winter. Those of you without much experience at the helm are going to find it pretty hard work navigating the ice at first. We'll all take an hour at a time each during the day.
How far is it to our landing point?
Navigator?
About 1,000 miles, sir.
And don't expect much night from now on. In 2 weeks' time, it will be December 21st, the longest Antarctic day. The sun will be above the horizon for 24 hours. Do not let this affect your sleep. You're going to need it.
Oh, look, seals. Beautiful. Aren't they?
Devils!
Yes, sir.
Have a cooked seal?
Oil, butter, dried parsley, a lot of fresh ground pepper.
Well, break out the pepper. Excuse me, boys.
Why have we stopped the engines?
Frankie's bagged a seal. He's going across the floes after it.
Well, as long as we've stopped, we might as well let everybody off. A bit of exercise might do us all good.
Offside! Offside!
Offside! It's like what I'm supposed to do. That's a bit too hard on him, right? He can't help being a foreigner.
My ball, I think.
Free kick for the shore party. Give up.
Take a shot, Wazzle.
Yes, boss.
Come on, Wazzle.
You all right, boss?
Yes, I'm all right, Colonel.
Okay, before we talk about the soccer match, or if the Europeans in the room, the football match, the first half of that clip, what'd you notice?
He was prepping them really well for the dangers and the challenges ahead.
He's prepping really, really well. Connexa, a large HR consultancy owned by IBM, they claim that to create enterprise-wide engagement, you need to have a leader who is trusted. Then they drilled down and said, how do we build trust? And based on research, 3 ways you build trust. You need to know what you're doing, and your employees need to know you know what you're doing. So you could actually sense, while Shackleton was there, he knows what he's doing. He's done this before. Second way you build trust is you have to have integrity as part of your DNA. The number one way you build trust, you have to demonstrate you care about the well-being of people. And you will see examples of each of these throughout this video. What else did you notice about the earlier clip?
Tension and fear about this Growler.
Yeah, well, because he has kind of seen what is about to happen. He's now beginning to sense, this isn't good. In fact, because of that, that leads him to allow the boat to be stopped and have some levity. By the way, who stopped the boat? Did the captain stop the boat? Fascinating. 1914 was a very draconian time. The captain made all decisions. He had already created a culture in which decision-making was decentralized. He allowed anyone on the boat to stop the boat. Now, if you know anything about Detroit, Detroit got their butts kicked because they wouldn't let anyone stop the assembly line. Along comes Toyota, and if you know Kaizen, the whole process of Kaizen is anyone can stop the assembly line. Shackleton allowed anyone on the voyage to stop the boat. He had empowered folks very early on, which is why I often say he was the first engaged leader, and this was unheard of in 1914. Very top-down, very authoritative. Now, how about the soccer match? What do you think about, stopping the boat and having some fun? Thoughts?
But he was one of the guys.
He was one of the guys. Yeah. Not only was he one of the guys, he, at least from this clip, he didn't appear to be very successful. Any thoughts on his lack of success? What? He let him score. Great observation. Why would he let? To create confidence in who? In the perhaps. Others?
Going into that situation, you need people who are willing to admit that they have limitations. If you don't know your limitations, you're going to die.
Let me give a great case study. Bob Weber was CEO at Ensor before we acquired by AECOM. I was executive VP, and I reported to Bob. And we used to show up to all the board members. And Bob gave a presentation to the board of directors. And we had the who's who of a board. And one of the board members said, Bob, we always do annual planning. What are you doing for your 5-year strategic plan? And I remember vividly, Bob looked at his board and basically said, I haven't got a clue. We've never done 5-year strategic planning. I don't know. And I recall sitting there saying, that's remarkable. I would have made something up. Am I going to tell my boss? I don't know. He showed vulnerability. What do you think happened when he showed vulnerability? What do you think the board did? Do you think they yelled at him? It was remarkable. Oh, Bob, I've done some offsite strategic planning. Let me connect you with so-and-so, one of our portfolio companies, who can help you. All of a sudden now everyone came in to help him. It was remarkable. Vulnerability as a leader. According to Jim Collins, wrote the book Good to Great, he claims vulnerability of a leader is one of the top traits. Sounds counterintuitive, right? Counterintuitive. You're a leader, you're supposed to know everything. You saw in this clip early on, you saw Shackleton look to his navigator and ask for advice because he didn't know the answer. And he also was showing to the men, hey, I'm human. Look, I let up a goal. And by the way, that was validated in his logs. And Shackleton's logs, he said, they're starting to put me on a pedestal. This is not good. I need to kind of knock myself down. And he used the football/soccer game as a excuse to do it. For the non-Catholics in the room, I apologize. This is a Christian reference because it was a Christian party in 1914. Christmas grog showing empathy. Now let me set the stage. He had realized that they were not going to reach land by Christmas time, which was a promise that he had made the men. So now he has to get them all together, which he does in kind of a team building sort of way, to kind of, keep the spirits high. Now there's a millennial employee on board. And the millennial employee didn't have the same track record of voyage experience and was maybe slightly more soft, homesick than the others. Watch how Shackleton handles this homesick, at the time, millennial employee. It's fascinating.
On Christmas Day in the morning.
To the boss, who has guided us all from afar, sometimes by map, and sometimes by star, there is only one gift, as I know how you are, so here for your pleasure a big fat cigar.
Gentlemen, let nothing you dismay, for Jesus Christ our Savior was born on Christmas Day, to save us all from Satan's power when we were gone astray. Oh, tidings of comfort and joy. Comfort and joy. Oh, tidings of comfort and joy. The ivy when they are both full grown.
From your family?
Yes. No, I'm fine, boss. You go and join the others.
I know. I'm fine too. Just needed a little air. Such a beautiful day. You notice anything?
What do you mean?
Temperature's rising. We'll get there, you know.
I know.
Less than 500 miles. We're halfway. Skipper reckons we'll be inside the Antarctic Circle by tomorrow.
I know.
You don't by any chance have a light, do you?
No.
Well, come on then, let's go and find one.
A dramatically different leadership style than you saw when he first arrived on the boat. What do you notice? Love that.
Great deal of empathy, for sure.
Great deal of empathy. He even kind of put himself. I'm fine too. Shackleton was not homesick. He had done this a few times. He was trying to make the millennial feel, hey, it's okay. I'm kind of like this too. What else did you notice? What did he provide him? Encouragement.
Reinforcement.
Distraction. What?
Reinforcement. There's a lot of studies have been showing that halfway, they just have to mention the 500 miles of the 1,000 miles, and it was the midway point to show
Yeah.
is psychologically.
Great catch. Another way of saying that is hope. One of the voids your employees are looking to have you as a leader fill is hope. If you don't provide that, who is? And when you look at the logs of Shackleton's men, one of the common links is he gave us hope. In the most dire situations, he gave us hope, and we grabbed on to the hope. And you saw that in this case. Basically kind of boosting up his spirit that, the days are getting longer. Things are looking pretty good.
I noticed that it gave him a way back into the event.
That's a great catch.
Opportunity to, hey, we need to go find
Come on back. Yeah, come on back. I'll go with you. And they're both going to walk in smoking cigars. In fact, now it looks like we just went out for a cigar. Not I was homesick. By the way, all of this was archived. So, this particular miniseries won all sorts of awards based on its accuracy. So it all came from the actual logs. So I think it's just such a captivating portrayal of what really happened. Leadership starts at the top. Walk the talk. It is amazing to me how many leaders that I've worked with since I've left corporate America who struggle with this. In fact, my first book, I talk about having a parking spot as the boss, right in front. And every single day your employees are walking by. Maybe it's a day like today in the rain, or if you live where I live, in snow. And every day your employees are seeing, look where he or she gets to park. They can handle high pay. They can't handle, you're better than me. Shackleton in 1914 was part of a fraternity where they were all better than the men. They were the captains. Watch how he handles walk the talk.
Pull!
Bring it up!
Also check Frank Hurley, the photographer. Let me know if you know anything about Mr. Hurley.
Keep coming! All right, hold it there! Incredible. Don't know how far I could see.
This is Frank Hurley holding court.
In every direction. Everything white, except for the crooked shadow of our ship, stuck like a matchstick in a giant's wedding cake. Down here, we feel like we're something. A force moving through the landscape. Up there, we realize we're nothing. A speck. A spot in the wilderness.
Boss wants everyone on deck immediately. There's water about 200 yards ahead. The whole floe may be breaking up.
We've had a sighting of open water. It's about 200 yards ahead. We need to cut a channel through. Skipper, you take the bridge. The engines are being fired up. I'll take charge on the ice. Every man, get themselves an implement. Let's get moving.
Good doing. Get yourself spread out now. Get yourself moved straight.
Reverse engines and prepare for full ahead ram. Full ahead, full ahead.
Love that clip. Walk the talk. I had a strategic offsite with a property management company, one of the largest in the Northeast. And following this, this workshop, it was a 4-hour version of this, the CEO required the entire leadership team to once a month do what they call a turnover, meaning the entire leadership team would go into an apartment and turn it over for the next guest. And they now claim that was the number one thing they did organizationally to boost employee morale. Think of that. Walk the talk, having your leaders see you, or the boss, as a regular person. Again, this was unheard of in British exploration in 1914, where it was extremely authoritative top-down. Now, how about that caption under that picture? Creating optimism. Track and communicate progress. By now you see where it's heading. People need goals. And again, I talked about people in this industry being extremely achievement-oriented. You guys were all the smart ones in class. I was the class clown. I admired you. You were the really good, smart math and science folks. You excelled in everything you did. Your employees excel in everything they did. Then they come to work. And now you may have some mediocrity. Why? Are you tracking goals in a way that you should? Because my personal experience is everyone wants to achieve. Shackleton recognized this. Shackleton recognized we have to create a culture in which people think they are achieving, because achievement generally will lead to more achievement. If you are defeated in your mindset, that generally leads to what? Self-defeating karma being followed. Let's jump right into this clip.
I'm starting a 24-hour watch on the state of the ice, relieved every hour. And no one is to leave the ship without permission. Is that understood? Chippy, I want a proper wheelhouse built for the steersman. When we do get into open water, it's going to be pretty cold. You can use the wood from the shore hut.
Yes, boss.
Colonel, 72 days' rations for every man, packed on the sledges and ready on deck from tomorrow.
Yes, sir. You did say you wanted the rations on the sledges.
I did. We must face the possibility that our ship could be damaged or even destroyed. If that happens, we'll have to take our chances on the ice. But don't worry. The weather is on our side. The summer is on its way. We'll get out of here under our own steam, I'm sure. Let's make a start. Thank you.
Establishing goals. Preparing for the worst. In fact, David mentioned that earlier today. For those who are up there in Canada, have what? Have that contingency plan just in case. He had the contingency plan just in case. But even in that catastrophic scenario, he's describing what? Hope. Don't worry, we're going to be okay. Okay, cat lovers may want to leave. Nothing graphic, more metaphorical, but here we go. Link to high performance. And by the way, all the pictures you see are actual photos. So that's not Hollywood. So it became clear to Shackleton that the dogs that we brought on board, which were going to be used to carry the sledges or their rowboats, were probably going to be needed for a source of food. Our dogs are real important. This one cat, without the boundaries of a boat, is going to be problematic. Cat goes this way, dogs chase cat, can't allow it. Leaders have to make tough decisions. Here is a really tough decision he is making relating to Mrs. Chippy. Now watch what happens to Mr. Chippy, the owner of the cat. If you negatively impact an employee on a personal level, you experience a level of disengagement, as you'll see, that can be bad in your culture, catastrophic in his. Watch.
She won't stand a chance out there. The dogs will tear her to pieces and you know it. Let me take her. She's a bloody he. I'll take her myself if you don't mind.
My job now is to make sure you all live. Every single one of you. To do that, I cannot afford to be sentimental. If I am, you will die. Die frozen, die starving, die mad. I've seen it before. I do not intend to see it again. It's been brought to my attention that one or two people here may have picked up items discarded by others yesterday. Don't look so worried, Bosun. I have a confession to make. I am one of those guilty people. I picked up a book in the snow this morning. A poetry book. Robert Browning. I'm reminded of a line from a poem of his called Prospice. For sudden, the worst turns the best to the brave. Let's make this our best, shall we? Robertson Island! Robertson Island! 5 miles a day! 5 miles a day!
Not a happy camper. Any observations on that clip?
There are hard times ahead, but...
Hard times ahead. Still setting goals. How many miles a day? 5 miles a day. By the way, he knew, based on his logs, we can't do 5 miles a day. Not in those conditions, carrying the sledges. Can't do it. But he also knew that I needed to have some stretch goals because I wanted to play off their goal of achievement because I needed to keep them hoping. I couldn't have them think that, boy, we'll never get out of here. So he exaggerated some of the goals. Other points?
He made it clear to the entire group why he made that decision.
Yeah, he brought everyone. That's a tough decision. He didn't want it to trickle down. You'll see him do this a few times. He's brilliant when it's a tough decision or an important decision. You'll see it coming up next. He brings everyone together. There are some communications that you can't allow to be biased in any way. So if I say something and you report to him, you are interpreting what I'm saying. A week, 2 weeks go by, and now you're telling him. There are some communications, sorry, I have to skip you and I have to go to you at the same time I go to you. That was one of them. Now, he also talked about some vulnerability that he had, because they were all allowed to take so many things with them, because they couldn't take everything. They have no boat. But he actually acknowledged that some of you picked up a couple of things above and beyond. But what did he say? I did too. Again, expressing, I'm vulnerable just like you guys are vulnerable. Don't feel really bad. I kind of understand it, because I did as well. Now, the gentleman who shot the cat is Frank Wild. A couple of things on Frank Wild. Frank Wild was his steady number 2. Had been with him previously, will be with him again. We all need that trusted number 2. Someone who's trusted by the employees. In this case, they all love Frank Wild. And someone who's trusted by the boss. Because at the end of the day, as you'll see, the boss needs someone to go to. Because he's given hope and inspiration But at the end of the day, who is he venting to? In fact, this is an issue with many CEOs that I work with. They have to provide hope and inspiration. At the end of the day, it's hard being the boss, right? So who does the boss vent to? Great clip. This is my favorite clip. It's a long clip, so bear with us. It's filled with key business takeaways. So if you spot one, jot it down. It's a rich clip about dealing with the disengaged. Not surprising, the disengaged being led by Mr. Chippy.
This is bloody stupid. She's been torn apart. Come on, keep at it. We can get through this. I'm not doing it. It's stupid. Look at the hull. You're supposed to be captain of this cutter and you're tearing her apart.
It's right. We can't leave it here. We have to go on. We can inspect any damage when we make camp. Now get back to your position. Bring her around.
No.
That's an order.
From who?
From your captain.
Captain of what? You've no ship. We've no ship. So we're no longer under ship's articles. And therefore we're under no compulsion to do anything that's bloody stupid. And for your information, we're not being paid either.
Get back to your positions. All of you.
We'll not be paid for the day she sank. No ship, no pay. Every sailor knows that.
No ship, no pay. I've never heard that before.
Well, get yourself a copy of ship's articles, Admiral.
What is going on here?
McNish here feels that there are
Get these men back to work, Captain. There's a base up ahead. Charlie's setting up a hoosh tent. Now move, and that's an order.
You've no authority.
Don't talk to me about authority. Who gave you the authority to have 20 men standing still here, freezing? Who gave you the authority to risk their lives while you discuss what you think? You want to know why they're doing what they're doing? Because I told them to. If you think that's wrong, then you come to me.
The cutter's been torn apart.
I don't care about the bloody cutters! I care about the bloody men! Their lives! That's what I'm responsible for!
Well, I'm responsible for my life now, and that means I don't have to accept what some bastard who plants flags in snow for a living thinks I should do.
We haven't got a ship, we haven't got a contract. We don't have to do what you say.
I'm the leader of this expedition, and your contract is with me, not the bloody ship. Now, you do what I say, and I will keep you alive, and I will keep you alive. But if you threaten my expedition, the lives of my men, if you become the danger, then I will have no hesitation in having you shot.
Aye. Well, we know how much you like that.
Get back to your place, McNish. And you, Vincent. There's no other way.
Don't think for 1 second that I would hesitate to use this.
Give him a hand behind, will you, Mac? Right, let's get this boat moving, shall we? There's a base half a mile ahead. We all pull together, we can be there in a couple of hours. Come on! As some of you may know, Chippy and I had the opportunity of a few moments' discussion about your contract of employment. There seemed to be some confusion, which I would like to straighten out. I have here a copy of the contract which you have all signed, and I shall read part of it for the benefit of those who seem not to have bothered. All members of the crew, without exception, to have interchangeable duties and to perform any duty on board, in the boats, or on the shore as directed by the master or owner. That means, gentlemen, that you're under my command until I release you, which will not be until we have reached a home port. It also means that you will be paid until that time, with or without the ship. Any questions? McNish.
No. Sir.
Very good. Well then, if Charlie's ready for us, I think a little dinner is in order. Thank you. Is he all right, do you think?
No, I don't think he is.
They won't let anyone see it. Even to me.
What can he hope to achieve by confronting me like that? Is he mad?
They're tired. It's hard. I've signed on to deliver next week.
Grubs up, Captain. Shall I tell the boss? Now leave him be. He's coming.
But they've no experience of this.
Oh, who does, for God's sake? They think I'm doing this for my own enjoyment? Our supplies are low, our morale is low. If we don't move, we'll die.
I know. But some of them are starting to think that we're going to die anyway. So what's the point in moving?
Who said that? Which of them said that?
No one's saying it yet. It's what they're starting to think.
They are not going to die. I will not let them die. Do you understand? I will not let them bloody die.
There's a reason why he's one of England's best actors. He's done Shakespeare. I mean, like, you just watch him and you actually, right now, you're probably like me, you think he's Shackleton. What do you think on that clip? Let's talk about the first part, bringing the men together. Thoughts? What did he do?
When people rebelled, he reinforced order and authority.
Yeah, reinforced order, authority, brought them all together.
I thought it was great. He knew, he could have answered them right there, that no, you're covered by your contract, but he let the whole situation calm down, they get away from it, and then he said, by the way.
Oh, by the way, see, he understands something that you should all understand. Money does not drive engagement, does not drive motivation, doesn't. The perception of unfairness drives disengagement. The perception of unfairness drives disengagement. So what he sensed is if they bring up money, and this is not fair, we're not getting paid, this is not fair, he has not just a disgruntled employee, he has a potential what on his hands? A mutiny. And that's exactly what he was talking about in his logs. This is a mutiny situation I'm dealing with. And when there are tough times ahead, every now and then you have to break a rule. He broke a rule. What was it? He actually might have even challenged his own integrity. What did he do?
Threatened to kill him.
Well, Frank did, kind of reinforced it. But he took out the ship's articles. Do you think there was anything on that piece of paper? No. He felt so strong that I have to prevent a mutiny and take money off the table. And he took control of communication. See, that's pretty juicy. Employees love juicy stuff. If your boss, someone has an argument around the water cooler, people love that. They want to, hey, you know what just happened? I just saw Jared just had a fight with Donna. People love talking about that. Back then they did as well. So what did he do? Hey, let's have a meeting, every single one of us. In case any of you should hear, I want you to hear it from me. And then the clip shifts. Now he's with his trusted advisor. What did you see? A very different Shackleton. What? Vulnerable. I'm scared. Ship's sunk. Supplies are low. Then he does something that he shouldn't have done. What was it? Frank Wilde says, well, they think we're going to die anyways. What did Shackleton do?
Made a promise he couldn't keep.
Who? He said who said it?
Oh, yeah.
Picture Jared being my number one trusted guy. And you all trust him. And Jared comes to me and he says, after talking to Chris doesn't think we can meet that goal. No way we can double in size. And he comes to me and says, the team, they don't think they can do it. And I say, Jared, who? And he says, Chris. He just lost the respect of all of you. He knew that. Shackleton shouldn't have even asked it. Shows you how out of control and it was getting to Shackleton. By the way, we're running, it's about 2 o'clock. Can you give me about another 10 minutes? Trust me, you'll want to kind of hang in there for the close. It's pretty terrific. Okay, before we, a little tee up on this one. Communication. This is a great clip. Now you have the negotiation between the prima donna and Shackleton. The prima donna goes back to get his photographs. And he wants to take all of his photographs with him because he understands we need these photos. Shackleton knows that based on the weight, we can't carry them. Sorry, we can't take them. Watch the discussion that happens between Shackleton and his somewhat disgruntled photographer, and you'll see a bond being formed. It's pretty significant.
What are you doing? Looking for my film. It's down there, underwater. My cans are sealed so the water can't get at it, but I can't reach. If you two blokes were to hold my legs, I think I could.
You crazy? You freeze to death if you go under there. It's if you don't drown first.
Can't reach far enough on my own. I'm not going without him. There's another one. It's on the move. Don't worry, I'll be quick. Where's he gone? I don't bloody know. Get him out of here. Pull! Circulation. She's going! Let's get her out. All right, just get the bloody film. Take the cans.
Frank, we can't carry any more weight.
I'm not leaving them behind.
I have 28 lives to consider.
So have I. And 1 year of each of those 28 lives is in these pictures. What's the point of our survival if there's no record of what's happened? And if we don't make it, then this will be all the life that's left of us. Without these, we've done nothing, except get lost like a bunch of schoolgirls on a nature ramble.
How many are there?
520.
Well, perhaps we could take a box.
Not enough. 200. You make the selection.
100, and we make the selection together. Deal?
150. Deal?
Deal.
Great clip. There's a social experiment called the Rule of Five. And the Rule of Five is as simple as this. If you work with someone to have that individual feel they helped establish a goal, they are 5 times more likely to accomplish the goal. Think of that next time you just arbitrarily assign a billable hour target. If someone works with you to jointly come up with a goal, they are 5 times more likely to accomplish it. Last clip, then we'll go back to the closing clip, or second to last clip, so bear with me. Succession planning. He now has to select, they are now on Elephant Island, he has to make a decision. Who is coming with me 850 miles to try to get help? And you'll see him make the decision, you'll see succession planning, and he makes some interesting decisions during this clip.
Chippy? I suppose there's no way we can make the Caird more seaworthy without wood.
Who says we don't have wood? What do you want to do?
Make her unsinkable.
Cover her over, you mean? Make a deck?
Yes, but I suppose that's impossible.
Who's the carpenter around here? You or me?
He hasn't slept for days. We'll put him in my tent. His is no use.
I'm going to take a small group of men on the Caird to go and get help. I was hoping you'd agree to be one of them.
Well, I better make sure she's watertight then, right?
I can only take 6 men with me, and so far every one of you who can stand has volunteered.
Except me, sir. I'm not much use in a boat.
Not much use on the bloody planet.
Settle down now. We're 870 miles away from the whaling station at South Georgia. We're lucky with the weather. Could be there in 12 days, pick up a ship, back here in under a month. Couple of bottles of brandy, a few cigarettes. We could have ourselves a pretty bloody good winter.
course, if any of you wanted to go home as well, that could be arranged. I know those who remain will have the harder task. If we should not come back, you'll have to think of another plan. I've asked Frank Wilde to take charge of the party, and the doctors Macklin and McElroy to stay behind to tend the men who are sick. They've kindly agreed. Now with me, I'm taking the skipper, who over the last few days has proved to us he's the finest navigator on Earth. Chippy McNish, who will start work immediately on the James Caird, Seaman McCarty, and Seaman Vincent, who gave me such a valuable lesson in charm this morning. Tom, I'd like you to be with me as well.
Yes, boss.
Now, I want to leave in 4 days, so there's plenty to do. I'm afraid Charlie Green isn't too well. The doctors have ordered a complete rest, so I will need to appoint a temporary chef. Hussey, I'd like you to take charge. I'm asking Frank Hurley to assist you.
Yes, boss, thank you.
I'd like to have taken you with me in the Caird.
You've chosen a good team.
You're the expedition photographer, Frank. I think it right that you stay with the expedition. In some ways, you are the expedition. I don't know what our chances are in the Caird. Evens at best, I suspect. If we die, then what we've done lies with you and your pictures. You are our story. And if I don't come back, I want to make sure there's someone there to tell it. I've drawn up this letter. It gives you back the rights to all your pictures and your films if I die.
Thank you, I appreciate it.
It's a trick, of course.
Sir?
I'm not intending to die.
If you Google Shackleton, that's a very famous clip. They took those pictures of all the men waving, him sitting sailed through the window seat.
Wow.
Okay, cut to the chase, coming home. By the way, just a quick one before the last clip. Why do you think he took McNish, the carpenter, with him?
Keep them close.
Keep your friends close, keep your enemies closer. And he also didn't trust leaving him behind with the others.
Ship! 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 Are you all well? All well, boss! We are all well! We are all well!
It took 4 separate attempts in different ships before Sir Ernest Shackleton finally reached Elephant Island on August 30th, 1916, 4 months and 6 days after he had left on the James Caird. The steam tug Yelko was totally unsuitable for such a rescue, but somehow the ice cleared and she reached the beach. Worried that she might be trapped in the ice, Shackleton did not even step ashore. The crew of the Endurance had a hero's welcome in Punta Arenas. Shackleton wrote to his wife that day, "I have done it. Damn the Admiralty. Not a life lost, and we have been through hell. Soon I will be home, then I will rest." There was to be little rest. Within 3 months, most of the crew had found their way to the front line. Shackleton was to return to the Antarctic one final time in 1922. 8 of the Endurance crew sailed with him, including Frank Wild, Worsley, the 2 doctors McElroy and Macklin, Hussey and his banjo, and Charlie Green as the cook. Shackleton died of a heart attack as the ship reached South Georgia. On his wife Emily's instruction, Shackleton did not return to England, but was buried in the cemetery at the whaling station at Grytviken.
Keeping a culture of high performance right to the end, they were awarded the highest civilian Medal of Honor in England. He awarded 26 of them. He did not give one to McNish. Consequences for non-performance. Again, he failed at the improbable, succeeded in the unimaginable. There's some great resources. It's an amazing journey. Thank you for allowing me to go a few minutes long. Look forward to seeing you all tomorrow to close the conference. Thanks all.